So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today we'll get back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Wednesday, December 30th. So hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact December 30th. We are now 1 day away from New Year's Eve and 2 days away from the New Year. So that's always exciting. So that's always exciting. It's a good thing. It's always exciting. Looking forward to the new year and seeing what 2021 has in store and every part of it. Even if it's just regular everyday stuff or in sports, it should be an exciting year of sports. Hopefully this upcoming year. It seems that's going to be the case where all sports leagues are pretty much ran under normal circumstances. Seasons will start up at the right time. Championships, no bubbles. Hopefully bubbles are completely out of the equation in 2021. But and like I said, 2021 is an exciting year for sports. You kick it off with the NFL playoffs. Then the NHL would be starting up January 13th. You got the NBA season, college basketball, March Madness. One of the biggest events in sports would be in March. So the first real half of 2021 has a lot of sports in store. So it's obviously exciting, not just on a regular level, but even a sports level. 2021 should have a lot in store in the sports world, which is obviously good for me because that's what I talk about. So it's a positive thing. Obviously today we got a lot of topics to talk about. Yesterday, Miami took a tough loss. We lost 37-34 against Oklahoma State in the Cheez-It Bowl. So we finished the year 8-3. As a fan with having high expectations for this team, it's not really where we want to be. But like the coach said it a couple days ago, this Miami team is not where we want it to be. But it's not like this Miami team is not where we want it to be, but it's better than where we were. Last season we stunk. We finished 6-10. We were really struggling, and then all of a sudden this year we go back. We were playing insane. We have a couple losses, and I'll tell you what hurt us in that yesterday's game was penalties and mistakes. Just penalties. You cannot have that turnover on offense, the fumble, handing the ball off. That's just the little stuff. That's just the basics. That's the basics. That's when you're young. Now, that's the stuff like when you first start playing football. That's the stuff handing a ball off you learn. That's the basics. You got to nail that stuff down. We couldn't do that yesterday. We ended up losing the game. And too many drop passes. We hurt ourselves too much. We hurt ourselves too much in that game. That's kind of the story of the game. With the drop passes, we had a drop touchdown. We have many drop deep balls. We had some drops that you got to be like one drop, okay, it's a drop. Two drops, okay. But when you have 6-7 drops, it's just unacceptable. Including one of those drops was on a 4th down where it was a beautiful throw and just right through the guy's hands. That stuff cannot happen. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to lose the game if that stuff happens. You have to catch the ball. Penalties lay in the game. Pass interferences lay in the game. Hurt us. And there's a lot of times in that game, too, for Oklahoma State where we had a chance to capitalize. Oklahoma State didn't play the most perfect game either. They had the missed field goal. They had a couple. They had a couple sacks. They made a couple iffy throws. We had many chances to pick the ball off, which we did not convert on those. And we had a chance. We had a chance waiting for us, but it hit right off the player's helmet. Those are just the little things. We had chances too. We just were not able to capitalize on those chances. And overall, Miami loses 37-34. I'll get into it more later on in the podcast, but it's not a great way to end the season. At the end of the day, we finished 8-3. It was much better than last year, but still, for Miami to be set at this high standard every year, 8-3 is not where we quite want to be. We need to be, in that top area, that top 10, that 12-0, 13-0. That's where we want Miami to be. Hopefully that's the case next season. Obviously, Derek King left the game. Not good. It's a knee injury. They said they'll be fully evaluated, further evaluated today. So we'll, I'm sure, find out later on today. He obviously opted to come back to Miami. So that would be huge. But if it's severe, which I'm hoping it's not, then who knows if this season is even in reach for him. So it's going to be real interesting. It really will be. But these are the topics for today. We got Jets offseason overview. Adam Gase. News broke yesterday that made me very excited. Adam Gase will be getting fired at the end of the year. Multiple reports say. What this means is the owner has already informed Gase, saying that he's going to be let go Monday or Sunday after the Patriots game. He's informed him he's going to get let go. So pretty much Gase coaches the Patriots game. After that, it's over for him. He's done. And yeah, obviously it's over for him. He's done. And Gase will no longer be the head coach of the New York Jets, which is very exciting to me. Although I'm frustrated, we should have did it at the end of last season, but we didn't. And also, I'm going to kind of give you a Jets overview. Kind of give you what I want them to do in the offseason, what coach they could possibly get, some free agents they could possibly look at. Kind of give you a little bit of a mock offseason as we look forward and head into the offseason. Obviously, this week's the final week of the NFL season. Obviously, still got the playoffs, but for many teams like the Jets, this will be team's last game of the season. Then we got the NHL preview season plan. Rangers and Islanders. We'll give you the plan. The plan's official. Came out like a week ago when they made it official, but you're kind of really like the series and stuff are really developing. So I'll talk about that. Kind of give you the plan. Just the divisions, the start dates, all that good stuff. We'll give you all that. Then we got college basketball, college football, NBA, Nets, Knicks, and Miami to close out the podcast. As you all know, that's usually the final topics of the day. It all on the final it all there. Obviously, college basketball, football, basketball, and then Nets, Knicks, and Rangers. Knicks got a win not Rangers, Miami. Knicks obviously got the win yesterday. Nets try to bounce back from 2 straight losses today. And, yeah, all that good stuff. Nets play tonight against the Atlanta Hawks at home. Second game of what is like a 6-game homestand, I think. So we got a lot of games home coming up for the Brooklyn Nets. The first game of a series against the Hawks. We play the Hawks, then a day off, then we play the Hawks again. Just an interesting, weird thing in the schedule. You don't usually see that much, but we're seeing it this season. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So reports came out yesterday, which I was very excited about. It came out after the podcast obviously ended. As a matter of fact, I think I uploaded it even before, so it's not even like I could have redone and talked about it, but I uploaded it before. And then this news came out yesterday. So before I get into that, or before I get into what I wanted to get into, I'm going to talk a little bit about Gase here. Let's see. Okay, so yeah. So this news came out yesterday. So New York Jets will part ways with Coach Adam Gase after final game of 2020 season. Report says the New York Jets are expected to fire Coach Adam Gase on Monday, but acting owner Christopher Johnson has already made the decision to move on from the embattled coach, according to WFAN's Craig Carton. Carton said Tuesday on Carton and Roberts that Johnson has already informed Gase that he'll be fired after Sunday's season finale at New England. NorthJersey.com could not confirm the accuracy of the report, but the Jets hired Gase in January 2019 with hopes of an offensive-minded coach, all that good stuff. So you obviously heard right there that reports came out, multiple reports said that he will not be returning as the Jets head coach. So I look at this as, well, I'm very excited. As you all know, I cannot stand Gase. I've come onto this podcast multiple times and have obviously said how much I don't like him. And that's kind of just the deal there. How much I don't like him. How much I think he's a bad coach. He's just been an awful, awful coach for us. Since the day we've got him, he has been everything but an utter disaster. He's been everything. He's been awful. He's been an utter disaster since the day we got him. And I'll tell you this, because I don't know if I was doing podcasts when they hired him, because I started back up, April would be a year. So I don't know if I said this, but I do remember it. I never wanted Adam Gase to begin with at the head coaching job. I didn't. I wanted Mike McCarthy, who is now the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And He's not doing an excellent job over there. He's not doing insane, although he has a very good shot at leading his team to the playoffs. And I would much rather McCarthy right now than Gase, because if you would have told me that the Jets would have a chance at the playoffs if McCarthy was that coach, I'd be like, heck yeah, sign me up. Now, if we don't make the playoffs, I would still be angry, but it's a whole lot better than being 2-13 heading into Week 17. So, at the same, I'm really excited. I'm really, really, really excited about this. I obviously can't stand Gase since the day we hired him. I still don't know why we hired him. I get it's the Jets and stuff, and there was that small, still part of me, that little part of me. I was like 97% sure that they were going to fire him, but it's still that small, very small 3%. A very small 3% of that very small 3% of me that said, we're going to rehire this guy. We're going to rehire this guy. We're going to rehire. Like that, it's because it's the Jets, because of how this organization works, because he's so close with Christopher Johnson and Joe Douglas, because of all of that. Like that small 3% of me was like, you know what, we're really going to rehire this guy, aren't we? And I was concerned. But now hearing this news, you can finally breathe. And now you can finally, as a Jets fan, you can finally say, you know what, let's start looking at new coaches. Now that it's pretty much confirmed he ain't going to be returning as the head coach of the New York Jets, we can now start to look towards the future because we know that this loser is going to be out of this team. We can now start to look towards the future. So what that means is let's look at some of the off-season possibilities for the New York Jets. So we're going to start off with cap space first. I'm going to give a little bit of a rundown, give you cap space, some free agents we could get, and maybe something we could do with the number 1 pick that we have already locked down. So let's see. Cap space, I just had this up. Here we go. So cap space, NFL 2021. So, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of a rundown. So, I'm going to read through the Jets. So, cap space. You probably already know what this means. Cap space, I don't even have to say this. But the Jets are second in total cap space in the NFL, which means we have the second most money to spend. Jaguars are the only team in front of us. Makes sense. They are currently $114 million in cap. Dead cap, they have $249,000, and then top 50 or total cap space. The Jets have $122 million. Total cap space. This is total. Total cap space. The Jets have $122 million. That is total cap space. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Considering if you give one guy $50 million and another guy $30 million, that's only $80 million, so you still can get signed. You'll probably see 3 to 4 big free agents come off the board for the New York Jets. So the Jets have a ton of cap space. Let me just read through the top 10 teams with the most cap space. So we have the Jaguars at number 1, Jets at number 2, New England at number 3, the Colts at number 4, Washington at number 5, Bengals at number 6, Dolphins at number 7, Chargers at number 8, Buccaneers at number 9, and the Ravens at number 10. The team with the least amount of cap space is the New Orleans Saints. So they will be very quiet. Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah, they will be very quiet. Oh, wait. So, never mind. I read this wrong. So, the cap space total for the New York Jets is $81 million. I read that wrong. So, the cap space total for the New York Jets is $81 million, which means they are second. And the total for the Jaguars are $84 million. So, the Jets are only $3 million behind the Jaguars, which isn't awful. So, I would first start off with the New York Jets is hiring the right head coach, right? Some possible coaching candidates for the New York Jets. And you also got to do, this cap space has a big deal with the coach. You got to tell the coach, okay, if we're going to keep Darnold, these are going to be guys that we might be looking towards bringing here and possibly building around him. Whether that's Joe Thuney, an offensive lineman, one of the best in the league. Whether that's Joe Thuney. Whether that is whether that's Allen Robinson, whether that's Juju Smith-Schuster, or whether that's just working with what you got and maybe adding pieces in the draft. Whatever the case may be, I think the cap space has a big deal on the head coach. Because if you look at it, The most cap space is the Jaguars. They're going to need a head coach. Second most cap space is the Jets. They need a head coach, right? You look at a lot of these teams with the most cap space, the top two teams, they need new coaches. So I think that is a big deal. Where the coach is going to go depends on how much cap space you got. You want to know why? Because they want to see how you build around your team. They want to work with different players. You know what? If you give me Allen Robinson, I would love to work with Robinson and Darnold, or Juju Smith-Schuster and Darnold, or someone like that. Some of these big guys, and also sometimes these coaches love to come into an environment where you're building around the quarterback. You love to work with the quarterback and stuff like that. So that's obviously going to be the goal. But at the moment, the Jets have the second most cap space. So looking at the cap space, they've 81 million. Let's look at the top NFL free agents for 2021. So here's some of the top NFL free agents for 2021. You got a lot of them. Not saying the Jets are going to get all of these guys, but you got a lot of them. I mean, number one's going to be Dak Prescott. I mean, he's going to be out there. Number two will be Chris Godwin. Number three will be Allen Robinson. Kenny Golladay. Trent Williams. Anthony Harris. Justin Simmons. Levante David. Will Fuller. And then Shaquille Barrett. So you're looking at all these guys. These are some big names. I mean, Brandon Shreve. You got Juju Smith-Schuster. You get to the more Hunter Henry. You get to more some of the receivers now. Phillip Rivers, free agent. I would imagine he probably retires. Cam Newton, I wouldn't even look at him. So if you look at the free agents at the moment, I would go ahead and say you got, as a personal fan and what I think is best, I would say you got to look at Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson. Someone like that. Now, I very well could see Chris Godwin also going back to the Buccaneers, especially if they find a way to be successful in the playoffs. I'd imagine they try to keep that roster close. But personally, I mean, Allen Robinson, I could very well see being gone. That situation in Chicago right now is a little weird. You're not 100% sure of who your quarterback is going to be next year. I would love to get Allen Robinson on his team. He could be a deep ball catcher. He could catch it and run upfield quickly. He could do a lot of different things. And Allen Robinson's a very good receiver. He's one of the tops in the league. So I could definitely overall see that without a doubt. Allen Robinson could be there. Kenny Golladay too. He's another one. Some of these bigger names, right? Once again, the Jets have a lot of cap space. That's why a lot of people were frustrated with the Jets last season. The Jets did not have much cap space last season. You have a lot of cap space about every other year. So 1 year, right? We got Le'Veon Bell, all that stuff. Now this most recently off season, we didn't have much cap space. Now you move on to the next off season. This off season, now we do. So for a team like the Jets, a lot of times you find us getting like the second most cap space. Like, a lot of times you see us, every other year we have a lot of cap space. So after this season, next offseason will probably be more of a quiet offseason. This offseason, though, the Jets need to spend money. If we are going to keep Darnold, whatever we do, this is what the New York Jets have to do. Whatever we do, with whether we keep Sam Darnold or we draft a quarterback, whatever we do, whether that quarterback's Zach Wilson, Kyle Trask, I think Justin Fields completely out of the picture now. He has really struggled. I don't want him. I would rather someone like a Zach Wilson, because the one thing what elevates him from Kyle Trask is he can use his running ability. Kyle Trask can still run, but nothing like Zach Wilson, right? Whatever you do, whether you keep Darnold or draft a quarterback, whatever you do, you have to build around him with either a receiver or an offensive lineman. Preferably a receiver. If you're going to stay with Darnold, I would go ahead and say get a receiver from free agency, draft an offensive lineman, right? Or if you're going to draft Zach Wilson, preferably get an offensive lineman from free agency, and then get a receiver with that 29th pick from the Seahawks. One or the other. If you're going to keep Darnold, I would go ahead and say use that number 2 pick as an offensive lineman and get an Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay from free agency. Or if you're going to get rid of Darnold and draft a quarterback, then you get an offensive lineman from free agency, get a receiver like Rondell Moore or Rashad Bateman with the pick from the Seahawks. One or the other. But you also got to realize the Jets are going to have to give these guys a lot of money. And Allen Robinson, Golladay, guys that might be looking towards going to the Jaguars or something, or another team, you're going to have to give these guys a lot of money, right? The Jets aren't the most hottest place to be right now, right? They are a terrible franchise. Hopefully we could somehow turn it around here. But right, you gotta make a move here. So the Jets have to give these guys the money because you also saw what happened with Anthony Barr. The Jets got him, then he backed out of the deal, did not like it. He just felt like it wasn't the right thing for him. Sure enough, he's doing better off where he is. But the Vikings aren't making the playoffs either. But 6-8's a lot, or 6-9, I think, is a lot better than 2-13. So you're just gonna have to give these guys a lot of money. That's kind of the offense side of the ball. Running back, I would love with our first pick in the second round to draft a guy like an ETN from Clemson, someone like that. I think that would be an excellent pick. Get a running back. We need a running back. I mean, this team hasn't had a solid running back for a very long time. I mean, and that's another thing too. We need a tight end too. This team needs a lot. I mean, to say the very least, it needs a lot. So that's for the offensive side of the ball. I would go ahead and say get a lineman, get a receiver, and get a running back. No matter who your quarterback's going to be, you got to do those three things. Because we don't really have a solid running back right now. We don't have receivers. I like Crowder and Mims, but I would love to add someone else. I don't like Perriman anymore. I liked him a couple weeks ago. He's been really lazy. He's had a couple really bad plays where I just don't like him. I'm not a big fan of his anymore. He had a really good start to the season. I don't really want him to be re-signed really anymore. I mean, he had a really good start to the season. He was looking like the receiver we all wanted, and then all of a sudden he can't catch. He dropped a couple in the Browns game. We had a ball that was perfect to him, and he was so lazy he didn't even reach out his arms, right? Something about him, I just don't know what's gone into him. I'm not a big fan of his anymore. But that's for the offense side of the ball. I would say go with those guys, Galladay, Robinson, or even if it's not a big name, get someone that can be a solid receiver. Preferably get a number one, because we haven't had a number one receiver in a very long time. We really haven't. I mean, Brandon Marshall was here for, 1 year? Eric Decker was here for, a couple of years? I mean, Eric Decker was more of a slot, right? We haven't really had that true number one guy in a very long time. And you can't say Robbie Anderson was the true number one because he wasn't. The true number one is going to get targeted a lot. Robbie Anderson didn't. So that's for the offense side of the ball. And I would preferably draft a running back because, I mean, just looking through this, there's not too many great running backs that are available. Unless if you trade for one. Right, these are free agents, guys. These are free agents. These are not guys you could just get. These are free agents. I mean, Joe Thuney, obviously. I mean, that's unless you trade your second pick and go somewhere else, whatever the case may be. So now for the defensive side of the ball. Right, this is all what I want. Personally, with the New York Jets, what they're going to probably do is they're probably going to fail and mess up because that's just how they do. But, preferably that's what I would like. So, personally, for the defensive side of the ball, the Jets have not had a solid edge rusher for I can't even tell you how long. I mean, probably since, you can make the argument we haven't had one really since Muhammad Wilkerson. He was a defensive end, but he came off the edge and he caused chaos. But for an edge rusher that could play both linebacker and defensive end, we haven't had one of those in a very long time. I mean, I guess you could say Demario Davis at times would be that, but we haven't had an edge rusher for a long time. One as dominant. I'm not saying it has to be as dominant as some of these, as like a Khalil Mack or something like that, but it doesn't have to be as dominant like a Khalil Mack, but it could be somewhere like a halfway decent. We had Josiah Polite, we dropped him. Then we added Jabari Zuniga. He's been very quiet this year. And then now we need to look at some. Personally, I would not draft an edge rusher. The history tells it has not worked. It has not worked for the New York Jets. Drafting an edge rusher just has not worked. I would think you have to go in free agency and take an edge rusher that way. But that's also the GM's job. They're not going to listen to the fans. But anyway, so some defensive things. Two main things on the defensive side of the ball. Here's what I want to make clear first. The New York Jets still do have C.J. Mosley. Hoping C.J. Mosley comes back, the Jets should have C.J. Mosley. Hoping C.J. Mosley comes back. More than likely C.J. Mosley comes back. The Jets have C.J. Mosley at the middle linebacker spot. What would that do with Neville Hewitt? I have no clue. Would we use Neville Hewitt in trade possibility to trade for an edge rusher? I don't know. Neville Hewitt has really taken over the job of J.J. Watt, and he's done a very good job of it. So would possibly getting Neville Hewitt, trading him, getting a guy like a C.J. Mosley back, could that possibly be a trade possibility? Don't get me wrong, Neville Hewitt's been great this season. He's been unbelievable. But if you had to pick between the two, Mosley or Neville Hewitt, you'd have to go with Mosley. But if we get Mosley back, that's unless we move Neville Hewitt to the right or the left. But you could also use Neville Hewitt in trade bait as well. Here's my personal opinion. I would love to get possibly one of these guys. Now, like I said, this is also just all rumors and stuff. We need an edge rusher. That is one of our biggest needs. Our two biggest needs on the defensive side of the ball are edge rusher and cornerback. Safety, as long as that's another thing. We need to re-sign Marcus May. Safety, re-sign Marcus May. Defensive line, we've done a pretty good job. Quinnen Williams has done a good job. Foley Fatukasi has been one of the biggest surprises, I think, and might be one of the bigger surprises in all the NFL. He has had an amazing season this year. This is a guy that was a third string last season, came on this year, has just been dominant at times, has looked like a Pro Bowler at times, has had an amazing, amazing, amazing season. So you have him, you have Quinnen Williams, who has had a great second-year campaign. Has had an excellent year. He obviously got injured and will be done for the season, but has had a great season, has had a great year, and hopefully he can build on this. Defensive line's okay. Defensive line's not the problem. We were top 10 in run defense this year. It's the secondary. We're almost last in pass defense. And that's because our secondary is very young. That's very young. That's pretty much how it is. It's very young. It's inexperienced, which you can look at it as two sides. You can look at it, it stinks, or you can look at it, okay, it's inexperienced right now, but if we give them a whole offseason of training and stuff, it could get more experience and possibly be good. You can look at it both ways. I personally would much rather add a veteran in that secondary, so someone like a Marshawn Lattimore, which his name has popped up a couple times. Like I said, this is all rumors. This is all just people. This is me pretty much just giving options, right? Giving options. This is kind of just me giving options, possible things. None of this has been confirmed. None of this has been said that the Jets are going to get Allen Robinson. This is all kind of just speculation. We won't know anything really for sure until the Super Bowl ends, which, matter of fact, will be here before you know it. But this is all just speculation. You could get someone like a Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints. The guy has had a little bit of a down year this year, but has still been one of the better corners in all the NFL. To get him, he's a veteran. He's been in the league for a little bit of a long time. He could teach some of these young guys like a Bryce Hall, like a Bless Austin. Get someone like that. Get a true corner that can lock down other teams' number one receivers, right? Get a true corner that can lock down. Like you're in a division with Stephon Diggs. Perfect example. Get a corner that can lock down someone like a Stephon Diggs. You're going to play him twice a year, right? So get someone that can lock down a guy like a Stephon Diggs. Get someone that can lock down some other of these players, right? Get someone like that. We haven't had that this year. We haven't had it in a very long time. And you can look at it both ways. Like I said, you can look at it, okay, give these guys more time to develop and get experience and we'll be okay. But at the same time, you could also look at it as, they're so young, we need a veteran. So I think Marshawn Lattimore, that could be something. As for an edge rusher, Shaquille Barrett has had an amazing year. He's been an amazing season, with the Buccaneers and all that. He's been a great year. He's probably one of the better edge rushers in all the NFL. He could possibly be top 5, honestly, in all the NFL. Edge rusher, possibly Shaquille Barrett, right? But this also, too, these are free agents. So these guys, you just have to sign them. Some players that, you might have to trade for, that's another ability. But these are free agents. So, like I said, these are free agents. These are guys that you could just go out and sign, or unless if they franchise tag. So, that's why it's a little easier with the free agents. Some of these other guys that you might have to trade for, you're going to have to watch out with that because, trading, you don't want to give up too much. Like, I would much rather get a free agent. There's a lot of good free agents this offseason. I would much rather go out and get a free agent instead of trying to trade for someone like this because you also got to realize if you're giving up someone like a Shaquille or even just someone that's already trading, like let's just say the Jets want to, for example, this wouldn't happen. But let's just say the Jets wanted to get this really good receiver. The Jets would have to give up a whole lot. Maybe 2 picks and maybe another player. We don't want to do that. We want to keep our draft picks. I think we have the most draft picks spanned across the first 2 rounds in the next 2 drafts out of any NFL team. We have a ton of draft picks coming up. We have a ton of draft capital. Not just this year, but next season. So I don't want to give all that up for one player. Hope he does okay. I would much rather go out and give money to some of these free agents. So I would have to give this. The core free agents that I would want the Jets to look at this very moment. 5 of them. I would love them to take a look at Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay. You probably have to go with one or the other. It's kind of tough to say because, both of them are very good. I mean, if you had to go by injury, Kenny Galladay's more injury prone. He's had a lot more, I think, injuries. Al Robinson's more just goes out there and plays. But Al Robinson also is injury prone too. I mean, according to the rankings, they have Al Robinson as the 3rd best player in the free agency, and Kenny Golladay right behind him at number 4. So one or the other. Kenny Golladay or Al Robinson, Shaquille Barrett, Marshawn Lattimore, and then Joe Thuney. We need another offensive lineman. If we can get Joe Thuney and Penei Sewell, and then we already have Becton, you're talking at maybe one of the better offensive lines all of a sudden in all the league. And then you add a receiver, and you have Darnold, and that offense actually looks like a complete offense. And then with that 33rd pick you could possibly take ETN. I'm telling you, the Jets have a chance to do some good things here. I'm not saying completely turn around and make the playoffs next season, but I'm saying is revamp this team and maybe make this team again a competitive football team. The Jets have a chance. And this all lies in the hands of Joe Douglas. That's it. It lies in the hands of Joe Douglas. That's it. It lies in the hands of Joe Douglas. It does not lie in the hands of the owner anymore. Joe Douglas has to make the decisions. He's won a Super Bowl twice. I'm hopeful, I guess, that he's going to make the right decisions. But I'm telling you, if the Jets can do this right, they can make some big splashes this offseason and possibly really revamp this team. They can make some big splashes in all the offseason. Only if the Jets can do it right, though. If the Jets don't do it right, that is not good. If the Jets can do it right, then they can be a competitive football team again. If you get Allen Robinson, if you get Joe Thuney, and then draft Penei Sewell, there you go. You got your number 1 receiver. You got another offensive lineman. Now you take ETN. Then maybe you grab another offensive lineman in Thuney. And then maybe somehow you look for an edge in the draft. Something like that. I'm telling you, the Jets can do this right. Or with that 29th pick, you could always take a corner too. You could take a guy like a Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. Although I'm kind of thinking that he would probably land earlier, probably to like the 19th or 20th pick. Jets currently, I think, with that pick at like the 29th. So I would imagine he would probably land earlier. But we also said a lot of things last season about the NFL draft, about some guys going earlier and stuff, and we all expected Xavier McKinney to go earlier, and he went to the 2nd round. We all expected the Packers to take a receiver, and they took Jordan Love. So at this point, we don't even know. We don't even know. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But the Jets really do have a chance. And I like the first draft. So far, the first draft for Joe Douglas has worked out very well. I love the Mims pick, Becton, Mann. We don't know about Cam Clark. He's still a question mark. But then Ashton Davis, I'm not a big fan of that pick. But overall, most of the picks for Bryce Hall has done very well. Most of the picks for him in this draft have been very, very, very good. So that's kind of the deal there for the Jets. That's kind of your mock-off season in a way. Like I said, we got to do a lot of things right, and it all starts with the coaches. Let's just take a quick peek at some of the coaches that could possibly be available. So some of the NFL coaching candidates that could possibly be available. These are some of the top coaching candidates. This doesn't mean the Jets are going to get them. These are just some of the top guys that could be available. So you have Eric Bieniemy. He's the Chiefs offensive coordinator. He is probably the best guy available, I would assume. I would picture him probably going to the Jaguars just because to work with a new quarterback. But I guess there's that. Or go to Houston and work with Watson where something's already built there. I've heard a lot of Houston rumblings with him. Another coach would be Todd Bowles, Buccaneers defense coordinator. I would personally not even get him. He's already been with the Jets. I don't foresee the Jets bringing him back. Another guy could be Matt Campbell. His name has popped up, I think, the most out of anyone. Iowa State. If we don't get Bieniemy is my number 1. I really want Bieniemy. I'm kind of more leaning towards now not Bieniemy anymore because I have a feeling that we're not going to get Bieniemy. I have a feeling Bieniemy is either going to go to Houston or Jacksonville because Jacksonville, obviously, you're working with Trevor Lawrence. Houston, you already got Deshaun Watson and a little bit of a teamwork in there, so you could just build it even more, one or the other there. If we don't get Bieniemy, I would love to get Brian Daboll from the Bills. He is in an excellent run with Josh Allen. What he's done with Josh Allen has been dominant, has been amazing. He's turned Josh Allen into a Josh Allen was looking like a quarterback that they should have never drafted, and he worked with him. He turned him into an MVP candidate right now. Josh Allen's having an amazing year. I don't want to say it's going to be the same success with Darnold, but if you pair Daboll with Darnold, or even if you draft a new quarterback and pair Daboll with that new quarterback, that could be a very positive thing. So you're looking at that, Brian Daboll. I could very well see. We've even seen Northwestern. I mean, there's a lot of guys. I would say the core guys that the Jets are probably going to get is Matt Campbell, Brian Daboll, or Bieniemy. That's probably like the core. Although we said that last time with the Jets, and they went out and took Gase. Did not work for them. So, I'm telling you, the Jets have to do this right. Because, look, the Jets didn't do the coaching thing right. And, look, it set this franchise back another 2 years. The head coach is so important. It's important for the team. It's just so important. The head coach can make or break the team. You look at what the Jets were. Last year, at the week 1, the Jets looked like a playoff contender with their roster. A lot of people thought. I personally did not think it. A lot of people thought it. Okay? Last season with that, right? To be honest, the New York Jets got set back by that. If we hire the right coach, completely different story. But we didn't. So the Jets have to do this right. If we don't do it right, then we're going to be in for another long 2 years with a bad coach. We have to do it right. Coming up next, NHL season, Rangers and Islanders. Like I said, I'm hopeful. I'm confident in Joe Douglas. Much more confident in him. But we just gotta do it right. We have a chance to possibly turn this team around a bit. We have to do it right. Coming up next, NHL season, Rangers and Islanders. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so 2020 NHL season, division realignment, coronavirus protocol, Stanley Cup playoff dates. Okay, so the NHL has returned. So obviously the NHL has not returned completely as quick as the NBA. Obviously, the NBA came back, and they are in full run. They came back on December 22nd was their first game. Obviously, Nats are already 4 games into the season. They're already cruising. So the NHL at the moment is still on stop. They are still waiting for their season to start up, which isn't a bad thing, but they're still waiting for their season to start up. 2020 NHL season, division alignment, coronavirus protocol, Stanley Cup playoff date. So, as this very moment, it is supposed to start January 13th, which wouldn't it be tomorrow? Would be 2 weeks from when the season starts. I think the Rangers start on January 14th. I think the rest of the Rangers start on the 13th. I think. No, 14th. I don't know. I think the Rangers do. Let me see. So anyway, 2021 NHL season division realignment. By the way, I'm going to read this quick article. It has all the information. It's a pretty long article. This article came out like a week ago. I'm reading it now. I kind of already spoke on it, but there's been some more that has been added on. So I'm going to kind of read it, give you the division realignment, and all that good stuff. So 2020 NHL season division realignment, coronavirus protocol, Stanley Cup playoff dates. The NHL's return to play is officially a go. On Sunday afternoon, the league made a joint announcement with the players' union stating that it will play 56-game season starting January 13th, 2021. Obviously, that leaves very little time to kick things into gear, and this will be a far from normal season. So you may have some questions about it, how it's all going to work. We don't have all the answers just yet, blah, 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 blah. I want to get in. Okay. So what's the division realignment? We've known for some time that the NHL would be looking to temporarily shake up the division for this upcoming season. The realignment comes as a method of limiting travel and ensuring that teams will not have to cross the United States-Canada border during the pandemic. As part of the changes, one division will be comprised entirely of the league's Canadian teams. Yes, that is the case. Various alignments, ideas were proposed, but the NHL is moving forward with the following 4 divisions. So that's the truth. One division, it's the North Division, will be contained of all Canada teams. So I'm going to read that right now. So the North Division is contained of Calgary Flames, Edmonton Orioles, Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, Toronto Maple Leafs, Vancouver Canucks, and Winnipeg Jets. So those are all Canadian teams. Those will be all teams. Those 7 teams will be. Those 7 teams will be the North Division. The East Division will be the Boston Bruins, Buffalo Sabres, New Jersey Devils, New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Washington Capitals. So that's the East teams. All the teams on the East Coast, obviously. The North teams are all the team in Canada. The Central will be all the teams in the Central. Carolina Hurricanes, Chicago Blackhawks, Columbus Blue Jackets, Dallas Stars, Detroit Red Wings, Florida Panthers, Nashville Predators, Tampa Bay Lightning. And the West will be Anaheim Ducks, Arizona Coyotes, Colorado Avalanche, Los Angeles Kings, Minnesota Wild, San Jose Sharks, St. Louis Blues, and the Vegas Golden Knights. What is the schedule going to look like? Every team will only play divisional games this season. Each team in the East, Central, and West will play every other team and its division 8 times, while the teams in the North Division will play every other team in its division 9 or 10 times. Like I said, the limiting the travel. That's why they're doing East teams with East, North with North, West with West, North, aka Canadian teams, or West with West, North with North, Central with Central, and East with East. What is the schedule going to look like? Every team will, I already read that. In an effort to limit travel and potential COVID-19 exposure, teams will also often play several games in a row against a particular opponent. You can find more info in the NHL schedule here. We also know some key scheduling dates courtesy of TSN's Pierre LeBrun. Yeah, so that's the case. That's why the Nets too. They have a back-to-back. They have a game against the Hawks. Then they have a day off tomorrow, then against the Hawks again. So you'll see a lot of that where you play the same team twice. Or even maybe it seemed like maybe even 3 times. And they even said several games in a row. So maybe 3 to 4 times you could see. Where like there's a series maybe. That kind of stuff. But that's kind of limiting travel too. So you don't have to play, like for example, if the Atlanta Hawks had to play in Brooklyn today, they don't have to, so they don't have to travel and go somewhere else and come back, right? Something like that. They try to limit that so they could just stay, have a day off tomorrow, and then come back and play the Nets at home or on the road. The Nets would be home. The start of the season, January 13th. Trade deadline's April 12th. End of the regular season will be May 8th. Last possibility day of playoffs will be July 15th. Expansion draft will be July 21st. NHL draft will be July 23rd, 24th, and the start of free agency will be July 28th. So those are all dates very down the road. The key dates I'm looking at are the start of the season and the trade deadline. Other than that, the July dates, those are so far down the road. I'm kind of focused on the dates now, which is the start date, January 13th. How will the playoffs work? The league will have a traditional 16-team best of 7 playoff format this year. Though look a little bit different thanks to the division realignment, the top 4 teams in each division will qualify for the playoffs and be placed into 2 divisional brackets for the first few rounds of the playoffs. Number 1 seed versus number 4 seed, number 2 seed versus number 3 seed. The 4 teams that advance to the Stanley Cup semifinal, known as the conference final in the normal year, will be seeded by the regular season points total, with the number 1 versus number 4 and the number 3 versus number 2 versus number 3 seeds. This format means, in theory, this year's Stanley Cup final could feature 2 teams that typically play in the same conference in a traditional season. It's the truth. Where will the games be played? While the NHL elected to employ 2 hub cities, aka bubble cities, for its return to play in the 2020, the league will allow teams to play games in their home arenas during the upcoming season. NHL will let individual teams decide if they want to allow fans in arena, and at least one team, the Dallas Stars, plans to have limited attendance. That also goes off of the state guidelines. So for the New Jersey or for the New York Rangers and New York Islanders, for those 2 teams, I'm not sure if they will be allowing fans, and for the Devils, I'm not sure either. For the Yankees, or not for the Yankees. Well, the Yankees weren't allowed any fans. The MLB wasn't overall, though. But the Jets, they play in New Jersey, so they had no fans. So I would imagine the Devils would be the same thing, because if the Jets couldn't have fans and the Giants couldn't have fans, I would imagine the Devils wouldn't either. And the Rangers and the Islanders, I would assume, wouldn't either, but that's also up to the teams there. So, however, if local COVID-19 regulations prevent a team from playing there in their home arena, the NHL will provide a neutral site for games to take place. So that's true. So the Raptors, for example, they had to play. They're playing in an alternate arena right now. So that's kind of interesting. What about training camp and preseason? With less than a month to prepare for the start of the season, there won't be a normal preseason this year. Training camps will officially open January 3rd. That's kind of weird. January 3rd, that's 10 days before the season. You don't got much time. You have barely any time. Teams that didn't make the playoffs last season will be allowed to start December 31st. Each team will be allowed to have 36 skaters and an unlimited number of goalies attending training camp. There will be no preseason expedition games this year. Yes. So that's the final thing. What will the COVID-19 protocols look like? Obviously, a big focus during the upcoming seasons will be limiting the impact of COVID-19. With that in mind, the league has established some new protocols while playing outside of bubble. The league will require teams to disclose when players have tested positive for COVID-19 during the season. Teams will no longer be allowed to use the unfit to play designation that was in place during the return to play over the summer. Any players who test positive must follow isolation guidelines established by their local public health regulations. A player who tests positive must also be cleared by both a cardiologist and a team physician before returning to the ice. Any player who has been in close contact with a teammate that tests positive will be all allowed to continue playing as long as they test negative and remain asymptomatic. Coaches will be required to wear face masks on the bench. Every player will get their own hotel room during road trips. Players and staff will not be allowed to eat at restaurants or go to bars/shops. All meals will be served at the team hotel, and all transportation must be provided by the team. So that's the deal there. So it's odd, but it's a lot like the NBA and the NFL, stuff like that. It's going to be a lot like that. So it's going to be odd, but yeah. And like I said, it's going to be interesting. The Stars are going to have limited attendance, but it's going to be really interesting to see what it is. I'm excited. I mean, it's kind of odd to think that the start date is January 13th and training camp starts on January 3rd. That's 10 days. That is literally 10 days you have to work. 10 days, that's not much. That is not much at all. You're going to probably see a whole lot of rustiness for the first 10 games. You're going to probably see it because that's 10 days to train for a 56 game. And 56, they're lucky it's not 82, but 56 isn't as long, but still. And then after that, you got, the game every other day. You're not going to have to think. Coaches are going to have to get a lot of decision-making. You're going to have to do a lot of decision-making because once January 3rd rolls around, they're going to be full-on firing. So, it's gonna be quite interesting to see what happens with these players and with these teams. It should be exciting. Obviously, I'm excited to get the season underway. Obviously, for hockey, for the Rangers, excited for the season. So yeah. So with all that being said, coming up now will be college basketball, college football, NBA, Nets next in Miami. Oh, wow, Ryan Callahan retired. Wow. Wow, so Ryan Callahan retired. Many of you probably don't know who that was. He was a Ranger, longtime Lightning winger, and a Rangers captain makes his retirement official after a 13-year career. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, so yeah, so let's get into the college basketball games. There was an upset yesterday in college basketball. This thing is not loading. So there was an upset yesterday in college basketball. Houston actually lost to Tulsa yesterday. College basketball was not expecting that. But there's some games on today. We got Baylor, Alcorn State to give Baylor the win. Notre Dame, Virginia, give Virginia the win. Ohio State, Nebraska, give Ohio State the win. Tennessee, Missouri, give Tennessee the win. So those are college basketball. As for college football, we got some. Do we have any bowl games on today? We should have some bowl games on today. Let's see. We should have some bowl games. So there are some. Okay, so there are a bowl game on today. We actually have a big bowl game. We have Wisconsin, Wake Forest. This isn't the big bowl game. Wisconsin, Wake Forest. I give Wake Forest the win, and then let's see. Oh, Oklahoma, Florida. I give Florida the win. That's the Cotton Bowl, so that's a big bowl game. That's on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. So that's a big bowl game there. As for the NBA, we got the Nets Hawks. I give Nets the win. Bucks Heat, give Bucks the win. Is that back to back? Yeah, that is. Oh, by the way, yesterday's games: Kings won, Suns won, Clippers won, Magic won, Bucks won, 76ers won, Warriors won, Bulls won, Celtics won, and the Knicks won. So for today's game, we got Bucks Heat. I give Bucks the win. Celtics Grizzlies, give Celtics the win. Hornets Mavericks, give Mavericks the win. Spurs Lakers, give Lakers the win. Trailblazers Clippers, give Clippers the win. Yeah. And as for the Nets come in this game 7-point favorites over. It's on 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Or on Yes Network. Sorry, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes Network. I give the Nets the win there. And yeah, as for Miami, like I said, tough game yesterday for them. We lost 37-34. Just couldn't. Like I said, mistakes really hurt us in that game. That I noted a lot of times early on the podcast. Mistakes hurt us in that game, and I give the Nets the win. So that's what I got for the podcast today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Tomorrow, I will be doing a podcast for New Year's Day as well. I'll be doing that. Not going to take a day off for New Year's Day. I'll be doing a podcast there. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. And then tomorrow we have another free day. We pretty much just have a free day to talk about any sport topic. I'm not sure what I'm going to completely talk about. Today was the Jacks mock off season. Like I said, still trying to find stuff. There's a lot of sports going on, so I'll find something. But yeah. So that's what I got for the podcast. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. By the way, I'll be back tomorrow with another podcast and Friday. I'm not going to take off for New Year's Day. I'll be doing a podcast as well. So, yeah, we're getting closer to another weekend of football ahead of us. And, yeah, it's exciting. So a lot of sports on tonight again. So enjoy that. With all that being said, hope you enjoyed it. Or I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.